be talking about sex magic. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear me say sex magic? Does it sound like this crazy, just like super culty, like...
Yeah, I just laugh about how when I was telling my partner about the moon circles and I like came home once and he was like, so how was the lesbian witch orgy? And I was like, oh, so good, thanks for asking.
It was great, actually.
It was actually so great. I loved it so much. But yeah, I think I just think of like a circle of naked women in some fire, probably, is what I would like.
That sounds like a good time.
It does sound like a really good time. But after the jokes, what I really think about is using orgasm and pleasure and sex as a tool for deepening spiritual connection.
Yeah, spiritual connection to self and to whoever your partner is or whoever you're interacting with at that given moment. I think that there are, like, ideally, right, because it's not always the case where we have these super embodied sexual experiences with partners. I mean, haven't always been in the realm of feeling like sex is super magical beyond just like orgasm feels very good, but I think that I've come to a place where I do see sex as this super magical creative space where I get to fuel and manifest and propel my deepest desires for myself, for my partner, for what I really want out of life. Like, what in my most primal essence of pleasure, of yearning, of wanting, of desire, like what is coming up for me while I'm in that space, when I'm in that energy. And I think it's been so illuminating and clarifying that within the partnership that I'm in now breeds that kind of authenticity even within my own psyche of being like, this is what's coming up for me. And it's not, sure, sometimes little things come in that maybe a bit like I'm processing other things and I'm in that space, but when I get to orgasm, like what's on my mind is what I'm wanting to call towards me. And like being able to hold that intention with me while I climax has been like honestly otherworldly. And I feel like it's been such a beautiful connection that I've been able to create in space that I have and I look forward to. I'm like, I look forward to all the things that I get to really call towards me for myself and for my partner.
Yeah, I love that. I had referred to existence the other day as cosmic orgasm. And that sex, and whatever sex looks like for you, which is, I think, really just like an engagement in the divine pleasure centers, of our body. It doesn't have to be penetration. It doesn't have to be partnered. It doesn't have to look any certain way. But sex is a tool to reach a different level of consciousness that allows us to access our highest selves and our highest needs. And provides us an opportunity to deepen a connection with another person when we're open to that. And not all sex needs to be that way. Like sometimes it can just feel good, be something that just feels good or something we want to do because we want to do it. And I also believe that like sex magic exists beyond just the act of like just having the sex, that like even if you're not spiritually in tune during sex, physically engaging in it somatically moves energy throughout your body, and allows you to release stuck energy so that when you show up in the next day in your, like, after your unconscious brain has had time to process things, you are given an opportunity to show up in a new, fresh, cleaner type of way.
Like a cleansed, refreshed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I totally feel that.
You know, so don't want, like, listeners to feel disheartened if they're not having these, like,
spiritual experiences,
tantric, whatever, because, like, you can be having whatever sex looks like for you, and it still is a magical experience. But for me, like, I have coded different orgasmic experiences to provide me different things, and, like, I kind of see, like, one orgasm as the minimum for me, because and it, you know, and it's fun, like, not that I always have to orgasm anyway, like, there's sometimes
it's a good baseline though. I'm like, I'm down with the baseline,
but I mean it even more so just thinking about, like, energetically and spiritually, because the first orgasm for me is usually a major release in whatever is keeping me present from fully connecting in my body. It's like taking out a ponytail or taking off your bra, or, like, it's the switch. And I'll get into the nitty-gritty details of these types of orgasms so people can, like, I'm saying this to encourage other people to explore with their bodies in this way. But that orgasm for me tends to typically be one that's very much centered in the clitoris and is, like, more of an external orgasm in that. I don't know if that is conceptually makes sense, but that's how it feels in my body. And then second and third orgasms tend to go deeper into my vagina, into my cervix. They feel them in my womb, and I feel them, like, in the fact that they're very much a release. They're not like a taking off, but they're a release and an opening up. And that's when when I'm able to experience, like, a deeper type of orgasm with a more, like, there's terms are ridiculous, because it's like, what do you want to label something as? But, like, you know, if there's female ejaculation or whatever those phrases are, which I'm like, this is just orgasms, like, you're just a body doing a body thing, but, like, that's when I'm able to feel that and experience those things more deeply.
I like the kind of anecdote you gave and visual of, like, taking out a ponytail or taking your bra off, because I do think, and in my own experience have noticed, that if I masturbate before having partnered sex, it is, like, that initial kind of taking off the ponytail, like, it is I don't want to call it a palate cleanser, but kind of like I'm shedding all of the processing that has been going on in the background, and I am in my body now after that first initial orgasm, and then going into partnered sex, I feel like it just amplifies it that much more, because I've claimed my own pleasure, and now I'm able to go into it in a way that feels more embodied, and, like, I'm not having the orgasm be so much of a processing. It's more of a full taking on ownership of my pleasure and really feeling it out in a more fully just embodied way. I feel like embodied's the only word that I can really use.
I think it's a good word. I think that it is exactly like that, and, you know, even more so, it gives us an opportunity to not only connect with our bodies, but connect with these major energy and spiritual messages, you know, that we're trying to discern day in and day out. Like, I have experienced this multiple times where, like, my day has been really, really hard, or has brought up a lot of questions for me where I'm trying to figure out the right thing to do, or I'm trying to like process this one thing, and I'll be having sex and I'm like, these things are just like coming up in my brain, and you know, initially feeling like, oh, that's wrong, I need to stay present. But what I have led myself to be able to do then is to allow thoughts to come in and to leave whenever they're naturally ready. And then through the process of orgasm, doing what pretty much exactly what you said is like calling in some clarity and calling in, you know, my higher self who knows what my needs are, and getting that energy from my partner too, who's often able to provide a lot of balance to things that I don't see, you know? And so it's a very sacred ritual for me to engage in, because it isn't only physical, you know, it's a very holistic experience of self.
Yeah, it's an energy exchange. And I feel like we have the partners that we have at any given time because we're meant to be exchanging energy in that way and processing on our own levels, you know, of that kind of energy. And I'm also just thinking about the fact that, like, when I am calling in that higher self kind of sex magic-y orgasm energy, like I get visuals and I get these glimpses into this is what it is, like this is what is being created, like this is what's on the path, like, and that is something that I've never experienced before being in my current partnership. So it's like I feel like I'm with this person for a reason. It just feels very reaffirming that I am able to get that insight in exchanging energy with my partner. And I like feel super grateful that I have the connection even to myself to be able to discern that is my reality and that is my truth. And I don't think that I'm some crazy person for, you know, getting these visions and visuals while being in that space. I see my partner in like a large open field with like, and I've seen this a lot in my like relationship with her, but it comes up during sex. It's also come up like future children have come up.
Yeah,
and
I've seen that. I felt that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just...
No, but you felt that,
I felt like conception and spirit babies through sex and like calling in those spirits. So I know exactly what you mean.
That feeling, and like that visual and just like knowing, like I think that a lot of it is knowing, and also I think even for like the future of our business, like sometimes things come up when I'm in that space because the womb, like everything we're doing is so closely and intrinsically related to the womb. So of course it's going to show up in pleasure and in that space for me. So those are some of the things that I'm like,
I told you I got my best business ideas while giving head. But that's just because I think it gives me a rhythm to put my body into that allows my brain waves to physically change where they are to allow information to come in and be processed in an entirely different way. And I think the reason why it's business for me doing that specific sexual act is because I see it as a direct engagement with transmission of energy and masculinity, which I think like a thing I've had to accept about myself is that like I have a lot of masculine energy in my brain, in my mind. My mind does work in a very traditionally masculine sense in some ways, and that gives me a lot of, I think, business insight and business ability. And so engaging with the sacred masculine helps me tune in to that part of my masculine self. And that's like that's like a little bit into gender and...
But I'm thinking like I understand, except I feel like I'm on the reverse side of it, where like I have a lot of time to think and kind of like come in and out of those ideas while I'm getting head, because I am with a partner that is a bit more masculine presenting.
Interesting.
So it's like in being in that space, I've noticed like I can feel like and visualize just my energetic center and my creative center and how it flows up and down and back and through, like it's a pulsing up and down, and like then a release of like this is what's being thrusted forth. Like it's just like such a deep knowing that like everything that I want I'm going to get, and it's
through this practice.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that is really eye-opening to be able to accept that, because like even recording this podcast, I'm catching myself, like I feel like I have a lot more pauses, or a lot more like I don't like just trying to come up with ways to make all of these things feel palatable,
tangible,
and
for people.
Yeah, and just the fear of being too much, or to be fully accepting of this sex witch, sex magic, that we're doing, because our work with Chrysalis Collective is inspired by our own sexuality, and it is propelled by our connection with our wombs, which is a massive part of our sexual being. So that the fact that like we have these types of conversations even outside of podcast recording about like what downloads are you getting during sex, like how are we practicing masturbation and like connecting with our bodies and what we feel and where the tension is and the blocks are. Like this business is a womb led business. It's a sex led business.
Exactly.
And like we're not shying away from like that's where our divination comes from. That's where our direction comes from.
Our creativity, like when we say it's our creative center, it's because we truly believe, and that has been evidence for us time and time again. And I think that I know that I appreciate the space and the vulnerability and authenticity that we share together, and how we get to extend that to other people for their own truths and their own vulnerabilities. And I've said this before, but just like allowing ourselves to be an example, in the sense of we're an example because we're able to be vulnerable and open about this, when there's a lot of shame that has been injected into our sexuality. And that's there is no shame that needs to exist in that space for us. It's beautiful, and it's just an expansive energy to be in. Like orgasms to me are so expansive, so like why not harness that energy and really see it and talk about it for what it is, and not shy away from it, because it's natural, it's innate. Our bodies wouldn't do this if they weren't supposed to.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
yeah, this isn't a mistake.
Exactly.
And so I think that we are on a journey to help people connect radically with their sexuality in a way that even isn't centered around just pleasure.
Yeah.
But that's centered in this is an avenue to deepen your connection to self, deepen your connection to the universe, to your womb, to other people, to nature, and to your memories. That's another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about visions, is that I have unlocked very deep repressed memories through sex. They're oftentimes traumatic memories that are coming up, but they don't come up at any other time.
Well, and you saying that, I feel like gives me the space to also speak on the fact that for my initial years having sex, I would not vocalize or speak or do any kind of like true moaning. I felt very performative and not authentic because there was a lot of just trauma and tension that I was holding within myself. So to really own my pleasure was not a space that I was in.
Yeah, and I mean, our overly incorrectly sexualized culture, and our, like, the indoctrination of people to think that they need to act a certain way during sex, or this is how this is how a girl should sound or look or act during sex. These are the moves to make. This is the speed to go out. This is what, you should do. You do feel like you have to perform sex for a long time. I felt the same exact way. I had sex in ways that were, the advice I was getting was from Cosmo. And
oh my god, Cosmo, the amount of Cosmo that I read.
Yeah, that was teaching me everything. And, knowing like, oh, if I make these sounds, like, these guys are gonna think I'm...
feed their ego.
It's gonna feed their ego. Yeah, I have this hilarious memory of this one guy who was pretty, like, he's pretty like, I don't think I had a single real orgasm for any of my, like, college hookups,
All the drunk hookups,
all the
never was an orgasm.
There was never an orgasm, and I'm sure I did in, like, some of my shorter relationships, but any of my casual sexual experiences, I was not even fully having, like, pleasure in those experiences. But this one is just funny to me because I remember being very vocal during this experience, which was kind of my thing. I felt like I had kind of created a persona as to how to have sex, because it meant people would have sex with me, and therefore I have value, and I'm able to, like, reject my upbringing too. It's a whole big thing. But anywho, he was like, wow, like, most people, like, don't act this, like, into this, like, it was like, this is great for me, like, you seem to be into this. And I was like, sure, okay, yeah, you're doing a good job, but feeling comfortable enough to be able to actually relax and open the throat to make the sounds that it's intuitively going to make, and not forcing it, to make different sounds, and to focus, like, for me now, reaching those deeper level of orgasms, that second, third, fourth orgasm of the experience, I have to go back into my birthing mindset and say, like, open up, low vocal tones, fully, like, release anything that's up here in my jaw, really open my lips, open my mouth, open my throat to these sensations, so that whatever needs to come through can come through. And it doesn't sound, like you would think that it should sound, and that's okay.
And I think that I didn't get to that space until, honestly, very recently, like, of truly just letting what was gonna come out, instead of skewing it a way that I thought was going to be a little sexier, like, more, like you said, palpable to the quote-unquote audience, because it's not, it's like, it's my orgasm. If this is how it's coming out, this is how it's coming out.
Right, and the person that you're with ideally should be celebrating that, and, like, that should give them pleasure to see you in your true pleasurable self, and, like, there shouldn't be anything that you do during sex that turns this other person off to think that it's weird or, wrong at any point in time, because you should be having sex with somebody that fully embraces the power of your orgasm. Like, don't waste your time with people that aren't freaking worth it, because the womb will tell you when it's mad at you for letting people into it that shouldn't be into it. You will get UTIs. You will get bad BV.
You will get yeast infections.
Yeah,
your period will be dark as hell. Like, you will hold on onto a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, you will feel sore and
Yeah.
tender, like you shouldn't be in pain. You know, those are very real things that, like, if your body is telling you, if you're having sex with somebody and every month you're having a UTI or a yeast infection with your period or something, like, ask yourself, like, what
is my womb trying to tell me?
What is my womb trying to tell me right now, you know? And that's there's value in that, and it can take a lot of courage to listen to that part of your body, but I'm telling you that, like, if you allow it to speak and you listen to it, you will never be guided wrong.
Yeah.
It will always guide you to your truth.
Well, and I think that that's why it's also so powerful to empower individuals to take their orgasm back into their own hands. You don't need a partner to give you that. You are more than capable of giving yourself multiple orgasms if that's what you want. Like, you don't have to. Having somebody in on that pleasure is a privilege for them.
Yeah.
And vice versa. It's a privilege for you to partake in somebody else's pleasure. And I think if we really continue to empower individuals to be like, if this is what feels good for you, if this is how it's happening for you, and the way that, you know, if you touch yourself in this certain way, or like when I masturbate, I like to pull my own hair, like things like that, I wouldn't know unless
I want to try that.
Yeah. I'm like, if I hadn't had that connection with my own body, how would I know to tell anybody else to pull my hair? You know, like.
Yeah. I hate having my hair pulled.
Oh,
I will just say it's the one like pleasure pain gray area that I just, like, I think I'm way too tender-headed. Like, I don't even.
I have thick ass hair.
Oh
so I'm
my
like,
god! I'm like, don't touch my hair. Don't lay on my hair. Get off of my hair. I hate having my hair touched in life, but I do enjoy, like, I know what I like now with my body, so that I can express that, you know, to my partner. And it's taken, like, we have been together. We've been having sex for almost a decade.
That's crazy.
I know. And it's taken a long time, like, and it's always been good. It was always, like, when we first got together and the sex was, like, so much better than anybody I had ever connected with, which doesn't really say very much, but that was kind of like a sign for me. And so we've just really, like, developed that chemistry and developed that relationship, and so now I don't feel, like, ashamed for asking for exactly what I want. But it is an internal work that's like, I am telling myself, no, you can say this, you can do this, you are worthy of this, don't be embarrassed to ask for any of these things, you know, like, these are.
I'm like, oh, that's one of the things that my partner does that turns me on the most.
Asks you what you like.
Or it's just like, tell me exactly what you want. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
tell me,
Yeah,
you know?
I love that, yeah.
I'm just like, no. I'm like, now I'm excited.
Yeah, you're gonna go home.
Well, it's time to wrap up this podcast.
Okay. I'm all by myself tonight, so maybe I'll fall asleep while masturbating and
I love that.
trying to
Eating snacks. That's my favorite. I like to eat snacks to masturbate.
I'll fall asleep and be like, wait, what was I doing? I'm tired. I have 3 kids. It's hard. But it's very important, and you should all find a playlist. Make a playlist to masturbate to and to help you with rhythm, I would say. Like, that is literally my advice, is find some music that has orgasmic rhythm to it, and to figure out, like, how to pace yourself through this, and, you know, waves and peaks and climaxes and, you know, resting time and all of these things. Get into a rhythm with yourself, get into a rhythm with your body, and so that when and if you bring your body to a partner, you are already connected and know your body's rhythm to orgasm. You know how it feels to get close, you know what you need, you know, to fully bring yourself to climax. And then after you climax, keep going.
Yeah.
See what's still there for you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't reach another peak orgasm, what's happened once we've orgasmed is we have removed a layer of the ego. We are in a much rawer, much more vulnerable place, and we're more receptive to lessons, and we're more receptive to the flow of energy for all the reasons we've talked about.
Yeah, more receptive to your own magic.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, if you are interested in deepening your connection to your womb and to your sexual pleasure, we offer that as a part of our womb wellness experiences that you can schedule with us. You can connect with us and link in our calendar through Instagram if you're interested in scheduling those. I know our Instagram now. I'm going to say it on the podcast.
Do it.
At the _ Chrysalis. No, what is it?
_ Collective. You got it.
Okay. Yes. And come to our full moon and new moon gatherings. We will always be open to anybody on any journey, any part of their own journey with their sexuality, because we are open and raw and vulnerable, not because we have somehow completed this journey, but because we're tired of living in silence.
That's
and shame.
Yeah, silence is shame. We're not about that. So out and proud.
Yep. Come.
Like all the queers, come.
Come and also come.
Come.
Both meanings, just all of it.
All of the coming.
And the going.
Exactly.
And okay, guys, well, thank you for tuning into this episode of Chrysalis Collective, the podcast. I am Savannah Taylor.
And I'm Alexis Ramirez.
And if you're watching on YouTube, this is
Solana Bean.
She's our mascot.
Soul says you should come.
She's spayed, so she can't.
I know. I took her reproductive rights away. Don't judge me.
Okay.
Bye.